Hello, Professor. My name is David Pratt. This is my recording for Milestone 5. This is the testing milestone, but I'm going to go ahead and show you all the changes that I've made to my code. Really small actual changes, but they mean a lot so that they make the code a lot more readable and a lot easier to work with. So we'll start with the view here. We're going to search for just Harry Potter just for fun because I like it and I want to see it. It's going to do all of its little works here. And you can see we've got all of the books, all of the movies. There is a bug where it's not showing the image for any of the movies, but I'll have to figure that out in a little bit. And the TV shows are loaded down there. So you can see that all of those are working here, and you've got the side scrolling there. Yeah, it's all working like it's supposed to. So let's dive into the code here. We're going to back up to my search controller. If you remember last time I showed you this was full of couple hundred lines. Now I've got it down to 70, and you can see that this was the actual function that was calling a whole lot of private functions to kind of help, a lot of helper functions and that kind of thing. So what I have done is abstracted my API and search support to another class actually called a service provider. I'm not sure how familiar you are with those, so I will go ahead and give you a little bit of a crash course here. Laravel out of the box provides you a way to register services within a container, and it provides you inversion of control, IOC, so that any dependencies for these classes can be loaded anywhere else. Without IOC and Laravel's, service providers, I would have to load a new API class in here. I would have to go show API equals new API, and any dependencies would have to be injected right there. With this, I can actually just call API and route to another class called API, and I will show you where that is in here in just a second. But then I can call this update database method that uses the search field that we inputted on the last screen, and just send it to that method, and it can update the database in the background. Same thing with search here. We'll search for stuff on a lower level, an abstracted level, instead of having to search for it here in the controller. And like I said, all of the dependencies are handled behind the scenes and only have to be loaded and changed in one place. So if anything changes, that's really nice. But it also just provides for a cleaner way for the code to look and an easier to read API here, not API, but API with everything being an API. So let's take a look at that here. We'll start at a high level here at the app service provider, which is Laravel's out-of-the-box way to register new things into the API. Into the service container. So you can think of a container like an array. We've got an array here, and we register a new API key and map it to a new API class. Really simple stuff, right? But we're binding that key to a new API class in the background, and here is where we would load any dependencies. In reality, in my case, the API class and the search class don't need any dependencies. There is one for the API class, but it's a third-party client called Guzzle that lets me consume third-party APIs. It can be newed up without any dependencies itself. So I'll show you that as well in the API class, but that's really simple. So in any other case where you would need dependencies, they would need to be loaded right here and injected into the API class. But that's one place that you can do it, and it can be really simple and really behind the scenes and really under wraps a little bit easier. I'm using the app service provider, which is the one Laravel provides out of the box. There is also the ability for you to create your own service providers. I didn't feel like it was necessary for two things here, but I might create a backend service provider here in a little bit if I end up using more services. But let's take a look at those services themselves. So we're going to look at API. And this is the actual logic that I'm looking at for the call to update database. So you can see when I go back to my search controller here, on my search controller, we're calling update database request search right here. That's passing a search field, the search that we filled in, into this update database method. Laravel is looking at this app service provider. It goes into the container and it says, okay, is there an API key that I can use? And there is. While you can see I'm calling it capital API, and the key that I registered is actually lowercase API. If we look at, oh come on, that's not what I wanted. If we look at, where is it here? App.php. You can see that these are aliases. So an array of aliases, API routes to a new API facade class. If we take a look at that facade, let's look at it here, API facade. You can see that we're getting a facade accessor called API. So that seems confusing, right? That's a lot of steps. All Laravel is doing is, on that register method, it's putting a new key into the container called API, lowercase API. When I call that, it's looking at that app.php here, and it's saying, okay, there's a key or a alias, capital API, that routes to this API facade. So let's take a look at the API facade. Okay, an API facade, we can see we're getting an API key out of the container. Look in the container, find that API key. It's going to relate to, give me 1 second. It's going to relate to a new API class. I know I said API a lot. I hope that that's not too confusing, or that you're at least familiar with it and can track along with my confusing logic. It does the same exact thing for search. And I'll just really quickly go through that. So if we look at the search facade, oops, my bad. Wow, I'm just doing things here. Control P, search facade, there we go. And you can see the key is search. And if we go back to the app.php search facade. And in the search controller, we're calling search right there. So, same idea. So let's take a look at that API class that it's actually mapping to. So here's all of my logic. We've got books from API, movies, and TV shows. These are the stuff that I showed you last week. We're just calling a third-party API using that Guzzle client that I mentioned. We're pulling it in right here, and we're actually creating a new client right there. This is where I called it it's like a pseudo dependency sort of thing. It can be newed up without any of its own dependencies, which makes it really nice and simple like that. And then down here, I'm just using that local client instance to call to this API URL. And same thing down here for books, and same thing down here for TV shows. Perfect. And then let's take a look at the search one. Oh, and I should probably say that that's just updating the database. That doesn't actually return anything. I could put public function void if I wanted to. I don't like return types, but I could put void there if I wanted to and return nothing. It just calls to the API, and all of those do is save new movies, books, and TV shows to the database. Really simple. Creates a new movie instance, loads all of those things in there, and then puts it in the database. Really straightforward. But then in the search, let's do search.php. Here we're actually returning something. See, we're returning a results the results collection. This is a collection that I created. Laravel provides a collection, which you can think of. I kind of think of it like a linked list in C++ or something along those lines. It's a container, basically, not the actual inversion of control container, but a container for whatever you want to throw into there. It provides you with a lot of methods that you can call on the whole of the collection and that kind of thing. Really, really nice way for handling multitudes of objects. So we've got a books collection, a movies collection, and a TV shows collection. We're putting them into the collection under the array name of books, movies, and TV shows. Really simple stuff. But then we're calling to the backend movies from the database. This also really easy. In simple logic, we're just looping through database columns. So these, like I said last week, I went all through this last week, so this is just kind of repetitive information for you. We're just looping through the title and description database columns. Those are the common ones between the three databases. I would love to change that and make them all common, but I don't know if there's a way to do that since all of the APIs that I'm calling to are different. I could try it, but we'll see. Yeah, so it's just looping through those database columns, making a call to the book class, and finding the parameter in the database, and then getting it, and then it's pushing that to the results collection. Really straightforward. Yeah, that's my logic. So, to recap, all that I've done this week is move the API and the search logic to further back in the logic in the structure here. So I've just abstracted them to other classes and used Laravel's out-of-the-box provision of facades and containers to let me register new services into the service container and make calls to the API and search that way. What's really nice about this as well is, as I said before, it provides inversion of control. But the other nice thing is that I can call this search object from anywhere. I can make this call in a view, I can make this call in a model, I can make this call in, as I am here, a controller. I can literally do it from anywhere in my code. I can just put a /search. This is to get it out of the current namespace because we're in the app HTTP controllers namespace, and the service container is actually, or I'm sorry, the facade and service provider and all that are actually in the app. Let's see, what is it? App providers. Well, the actual logic is an app provider services, and the container, or the service providers and app providers namespace. So that / is just there to do that, but I can make a call from a model saying /search for entertainment and pass in some string and get that. Why I would need that, I'm not 100% sure yet, but if I do, it's there for me to reach for. It provides a really clean API for reaching into the back and into the data of my app. Some future changes that I would like to make. I'm currently in the process of actually learning Vue. So you can see I've got the stuff up here right now to start learning it. I'm learning Vue, and I would love to change this mess. It honestly, to me, looks messy. I don't like the way that it looks. I don't like the way that it works necessarily. I do like these side scrollers, but I wish there was a way I could have a button over here or some buttons down here, which actually the JavaScript library I'm pulling from to do this is actually supposed to come with that, and it won't work for me, so we're going to have to figure that out. But I would love to have a better way to make this nav bar not look so clunky. You know, this is just a weird little orb that I made in CSS, and all of these look fine, but if I could hide them, you know, further over, and then when you hover over the side, it pops out with the new, with the nav bar, that would be great. If I didn't have to have this grab and drag to see more options, H1 up here, you know, simple things like that. These HRs right here look messy and dirty, and I would love to have white space there instead. So cleaning up the view is step number 1, and that's why I'm learning Vue.js, which is a really awesome way. I can actually show you some of what I'm hoping to do, which this is totally extra credit and does not matter to you whatsoever, but I'm excited about it, so I'm going to share it with you anyway. View is great because it lets me do things like I have an input right here, and you can see if I pull, oops, not that, Control-Shift-J. If I pull this up here, all this, oops, dear goodness, pressing buttons here. All this is input and a paragraph tag. But if I change this input, because I'm using Vue to do this, if I change this input to, hi, professor, it actually updates this string automatically. And Vue provides that support out of the box. It's super helpful. It'll be super great. And that is just the sliver of what Vue can do. I haven't even gotten into, I know Vue provides help for creating custom tags and doing things like that. And so I would love to use some of that on my views. So that's my next step, is kind of taking a look at the view of my MVC app and seeing what I can do there. I would also love to, if we go here and we go to my web.php routes file, I have all of these routes, which are all new things that I want to implement. I want to have a way for admins. I want to have a place for users. I have other ideas in the back of my pocket that I want to implement here, and so we're going to just start working our way down this list. I actually have a Todoist app on my phone that has all of this listed out and things that I want to get done and kind of start making happen. I'm hoping to get this looking really good and operating really well, and then optimizing it, and then hopefully I'd love to release it at some point just as a fun like side project thing to see what I can do. So that is what I'm going to be working on going forward. I don't know what the next couple weeks of this class look like, but I know that yeah, we're almost done with it. So appreciate your help and your support, and I will talk to you later. Thank you very much.